Well, YouTube is fine here with Hobbies Man once again, and today we're going to be doing another One Piece review. Today we're going to be looking at the last part of Wano, which honestly I should have split up into several parts, but I don't really feel like it's necessary because at the end of the day, a lot of things happened, but not that much really mattered in the grand scheme of things, in my opinion. And also, I just didn't really end up liking this last part of Wano as much as I think I should have. And I don't really want to waste my time reviewing it in many chunks when I can just do it in one go. So, yeah, I don't know. Overall, this last part of Wano is not the worst part of Wano. I think that the second half of part 2 is pretty boring, but I feel like this part of Wano wanted to be this huge, like, Summit War part 2 kind of thing, and it didn't really work the same way. I don't know. I feel like Oda needed more time, more chapters to develop everything correctly, or that he really should have focused more early on. And I'm not really sure what the right interpretation is. I think that because of the way that manga is, published, I think that the right answer should have been to let him go longer beyond the 99 chapters that he, spent on Wano, or whatever, how many ever chapters he spent on Onigashima. But realistically, if he did that, people would be pretty upset. But also, people are still upset at the fact that he didn't finish Wano with, like, the fanfare and the epicness that he usually does. I mean, I feel like there was, like, Wano was like this, right? It was really high, and then it peaked, and it kept peaking, and it was really awesome when Luffy finally got to Gear 5 and everything. And then after that, it kind of just, like, took a huge nosedive and just was really steeply trying to get to the resolution of the story. And I feel like that's a pretty negative thing to do. I feel like there wasn't enough of a post-Wano arc, if that makes sense. And it wasn't really satisfying. Now, I really don't know why this is. I don't really... honestly, I don't think I care enough to figure it out. Because it could have been the editors, it could have been Shueisha, it could have been Oda himself. It could have been that he wanted to get to show Shanks before the movie or around the time of the movie. It could have been that he knew that the audience was tired. It could have been so many different things. And because I don't really have a way to figure it out, it doesn't really matter. The point is that I'm pretty disappointed with the ending of Wano, but I think that overall it is still a pretty good story. I really feel like it should have been Summit War Saga Part 2, like the 2.0. But I don't think it manages to get to that point, and it's kind of sad, right? Because the same way that everything in East Blue culminates in Arlong Park, and everything in the first half of the Grand Line culminates in the Summit War, everything in the New World is supposed to culminate in Wano, and it didn't really. And that's kind of sad. Also, I was expecting Zoro to be a prevalent main character, and he had some power-ups, but he really didn't become a main character. It wasn't like Sanji in Whole Cake, and I think that that's a big loss on Oda's part. So, yeah. The premise of this part is basically, let's go attack Onigashima and free Wano from its oppressors. What's it called? Kaido and Big Mom and Orochi, right? So it is what it is. The plotline is iffy. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. The beginning part, the interlude with the 7 warlords disbanding, and the fact that they develop a cross guild and they do all of this stuff. I do think that cross guild was at this point, or cross guild was right after the end of Wano. I can't remember at this point. I'm caught up with One Piece. And it's been about a month and a half or so since I read this part of One Piece. But the warlords disband, which then leads into exactly what happens at the end of Wano, which is Cross Guild, which is Blackbeard versus Boa Hancock and all that stuff. And it was really good. I really liked this part. I thought it was pretty interesting. I also really was interested in the history of the Rock's crew. I think it was meaningful, but the fact that he can't introduce everything about those people until like it becomes relevant to One Piece overall, I think that it does miss a little bit, because it gets you really excited about Kaido's backstory, and then you never get Kaido's backstory, and you think that he's supposed to be Shadow Luffy 2.0, a better version of Gecko Moria, because he's supposed to have been a Joy Boy candidate, and then he realized he wasn't, and it doesn't really make you feel like invested in this story. So I think that the Rock's backstory, or the Rock's history, and the backstory snippets there fail to really capture the essence of what it was trying to do, right? So it is what it is, but it's fine. Then we get to the festival. There's a big lack of troops. Kinemon and all the people that he's with, the Red Scabbards, are feeling this this huge loss at the fact that there's no one there. And then we get to see the preparations, and we get to see the flashback of Odin's journey, which is probably the best part of this story, the return to Wano. And then Odin goes to the capital. He acts the fool, and he gets boiled. And it was really badass. All of that part of Odin's backstory was probably the best part of this section of Wano, and it was really, really amazing. I really, really liked it. I thought it was a lot of amazing, wonderful, so badass kind of moments, and it was really, really good. Then they're ready to go on their final stand. They're ready to what's it called? Do the thing, and then they're shot forward in time. All of this stuff is all pretty standard. I feel like we had already learned about this in the first part of Wano, and coming back to learn about it again is really not that important. Then we get the reveal of the betrayal. Fuck Kanjuro, he sucks ass, bro. But I thought it was interesting that he managed to do this, that Oda managed to do this, and it felt earned, and also it felt like really satisfying to be like, fuck, this guy was bad the whole time. And then I'm pretty sure that you can go back and kind of look at where every moment is that he was trying to foil the Straw Hats and Kinemon. So I think that's really good, but it gets squandered by the end of the story, so it's not great. Enter the Straw Hats, and also enter all of Kinemon's friends and all of the people that they were looking for, and all over the place. Everyone is entering the scene, and it's really, really great. And the plan keeps changing, but they keep going forward, and it's all really, really fun and enjoyable. Let me see. But it all works really, really well. We get introduced to the Tobi Roppo, the 6 players, or the 6 wings. I can't remember what they're called in English, like what their actual name is supposed to be, but the 6 commanders of Kaido that are not King, Queen, and Jack, right? So good stuff there. Really, really enjoy it. And then everyone splits up. There's these big battles all over the place. A lot of them are really fun. I really enjoy the arrival of Marco. I really like Nami and Usopp versus Ulti. I think it's really important that Nami gets these moments of like characterization. She sees someone hurt a child, and she immediately wants to go beat the shit out of them. And it's really good because it is such a great callback to Belmare and to her family and to who Nami is, and I just love it a lot. I think that there's a lot of great moments with Nami, more so than Usopp, but with Nami specifically, they just don't ever really pan out to anything because Nami is not a fighter. And I think that she should really get a chance to fight and be badass, and maybe she does after the next arc, but I don't know. I think it's about time that Nami should start to be really badass. And I think before that, stuff happens where like Zoro tries to get drunk and he realizes that the bad guys have booze, so he goes and fights them. And I think he and Luffy also realize that these people are eating and throwing food away, and so they decide to beat the shit out of them. I don't remember the order of operations anymore. I just remember the cool moments, right? But Nami versus Ulti, and then Tama shows up, and then because Tama's there, Big Mom and Ulti fight. I thought that was fun, but also it's not really important. Like, why is this happening? What does this do to make the battle more important, to make the whole thing more significant, besides the fact that Tama being involved is important because Tama wants to be a powerful player in history later on. She wants to be a bewitching Kanoishi, right, or whatever. But it wasn't necessary. There could have been other ways for her to be involved. They could have made a plan beforehand, been like, hey, Tama, your abilities work very well with these smile people because they're half animal. How about you sit out on the sidelines, but you make a bunch of millet dumplings, and Usopp shoots them into people's mouths from far away, and then we get you to yell really loud that these guys should turn into our friends, right, or something like that. And that's essentially what they do. But I feel like the way they do it, by having Tama in the middle of a battle, is really stupid. It should have been like Tama is a support character and Usopp is her protector, and they're in the sidelines, and Usopp's like sniping ability becomes relevant and he can do cool things instead of just kind of running around and not doing anything for the whole of Onigashima. So I don't know. Yamato, I think Yamato was introduced in the previous part. No, I don't think so. Yamato is purely in this part of the story, and I don't know why people like her. Like, her design is great, but I'm very confused about her as a character. I understand that her body is female, or their body is female, and that they want to be Odin. And even Kaido calls them his son, but Yamato is clearly a girl. And it's not like they want to be a guy. It's not like Okiku, who's like, I identify as a woman, right? Yamato doesn't identify as a man. She identifies as Odin, which is like the attack helicopter meme. But she's like, I don't know. It's really weird. It's like some random like 10-year-old listens to Hamilton, like the musical, and he's like, I'm Hamilton, and he decides to live his life like Hamilton, and it makes no sense. It's really weird, and I don't really understand Yamato as a character. I don't really care about the gender aspect of it. Like, it doesn't really matter to me. I think it's fine because I actually really like Okiku, and Okiku has this kind of same thing, but the character themselves isn't clear about what they're supposed to be, and so I don't really get that. Like, if it was a clear answer, like, hey, this is a man, I would understand and I would get it, but it's not. And so it kind of annoys me because I don't understand this character at all. Also, they're just really annoying, yelling their Odin all the time, and it doesn't really add anything. If you remove Yamato from the story, it would be basically fine because someone else can take over battling Kaido while Luffy gets better for a little bit, and someone else could have protected Momo. Like, I don't know. It could have been written better. There really is no reason for Yamato to be there. And the fact that Yamato ends up, like, finishing their story, their arc, by being like, yeah, I was going to go with you guys, but you know what? Never mind. Doesn't really work for me. I don't know. A lot of things with this character just don't really make sense to me. Momo declares his name, and I love this part. I really like Momo stepping up. Also really like the little moment where Sanji's like, yeah, man, good job. I think that's really good stuff. I like that a lot. I think it's really, really meaningful. All of the Sulong moments are really awesome. I love the Minks. The Minks are such a cool group of characters, and their Sulong powers are awesome. Electro is also really cool. But I feel like they didn't do much. It kind of sucks because we know that Oda can balance these things really, really well. I mean, he balanced like 70 to 80 characters in the Summit War really easily. And he could have done that here too, but he didn't. He just allowed the cast to grow and grow and grow unnecessarily. And it's just a lot of people. Like, it's like 8 mink characters that are important. Like 7 other Red Scabbards, all of the Straw Hats, which he kind of allows half of them to go to the wayside. Law and Kid, Kaido, Big Mom, the Toby Roppo, the the Jack King and Queen. There's just so many characters that, like, it's just a lot, man. And it's a really wide net, and I feel like Oda didn't really manage to do all of it well, and it kind of sucks. Because it really lowers the enjoyment a little bit, and it kind of sucks, right? But it is what it is. The battle with the Oars guys, the numbers, that was pretty fun. I really also like that callback to being like, hey, we fought these guys with Gecko Moria, but it's going to be really easy now, so let's just beat the shit out of them. I thought that was really fun. I think this is also the only time that all of the Straw Hats got to have that kind of like squad up moment. Like, you know, every time that there's always something that happens, the Straw Hats all have that one panel where they all stand together as they're walking towards their enemy, and I think that this time is the only time they get to do that. There's another time when Jinbei shows up where they all hang out together. That's good, but it's not the same as like the squad up, you know, ready to fight, right? So I don't know. I feel like they should have done that against a more meaningful set of bad guys, because the numbers or the ores, you know, wannabes were pretty irrelevant. Drake is an interesting character. I don't really get his storyline all that much. I don't know if he died. I think he's alive at the end of it. And I guess it's good that he decides to fight with the Straw Hats. Overall, I'm just like, okay, cool, man. Although his stuff is definitely going to be important later on. His sword becomes a meaningful military aspect that also wants to help the Straw Hats or the Revolutionary Army. I think it's important that Drake's stuff was here, that Drake's storyline was here. But if it doesn't pan out that way, I don't really think that it's going to matter. So I don't know. There's a lot of things here that don't get resolved and that could potentially become meaningful. But with how many things Oda fumbled at this part of the story, I'm not sure that he's going to manage to bring them back properly. So I don't know. The Boys vs. Kaido and Big Mom is a really great moment, actually. It's really, really cool. I enjoy all of those fights. I feel like Sanji got a huge demotion because usually Zoro, Sanji, and Luffy are the ones fighting the top dogs. But Sanji doesn't ever actually get to fight Kaido or Big Mom. He gets stuck with Queen. And technically speaking, this allows for him to have meaningful character developments because Queen is basically another kind of version of his dad. He's another guy from Mads. He's another mad scientist kind of character. So it works for him, but also, why does my boy not get to fight Kaido, right? But also, I don't really like Sanji all that much out of all the Straw Hats, so I guess it's fine, but it just felt odd that he didn't become, you know, important in that way. But the Boys versus Kaido and Big Mom was really fun. I really enjoyed all of those aspects, all of those fights. I enjoy the bickering between Law and Kid. And like, he's like, bro, don't tell me what to do because now that you told me, even though I was going to do it, now it looks like I'm following your orders and that's not cool. All of that stuff is really fun. Kaido versus the Akasaya versus the Red Scabbards was really good. I enjoyed that. But I feel like he should have wrecked all of them and they should have all died, or most of them should have died. And I feel like at least Kinemon should have died because that would have been a really meaningful death. Like, you don't have to like Kinemon, but like, he's been with you for like 10 years, right? If you've been reading it weekly since the New World, or he's been with me for like 6 months as I've been reading all of these, all of the New World stuff. And I feel like it could have been a really good death. It could have been a really good moment, but he didn't end up dying. But I don't know, it's whatever. The Ice Plague thing with Queen was fun. I like to see Chopper being the badass doctor that he is, and also the fact that he had helpers because of the Mink doctors was really good as well. The Mink / Carrot specifically versus Perospero, I'm iffy on. On one hand, good, but also they didn't kill him, I don't think. Or they might have, but he might have still survived. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I do remember that there's this moment where they tell Carrot not to kill him because that's not what Pedro would have wanted. I think that works, or I think that's what I remember happening. I don't actually know if that's actually what happened at this point anymore, but I do remember that someone else stepped up and tried to fight Perospero, and then I think he beat them, but then he might have died. I'm not sure. But again, there's no resolution for these characters because by the end of the story, who gives a fuck? And Carrot doesn't join up with the crew. Why did she not join? It makes more sense for her to join than Yamato. It makes more sense for her to join than Momo or Kinemon or anyone else. And honestly, Luffy as the king of the pirates and the man that's going to bring the dawn of the world, it makes sense that he would have friends of all races, right? And honestly, it would have made more sense for all of his members of his crew to be from these different races. And if Minks are a large enough race that they're meaningful, Carrot should be part of the Straw Hats. I don't see why she's not. Unless Oda, like, I understand the fact of, like, hey, Jinbei just got here, so we can't add Jinbei and then Carrot at the same time. I understand that, but also, you can. and it would work, because Jinbei has already had a lot of moments and a lot of meaningful developments with Luffy. It's not like when you add Brook to the beginning of the story, at the end of Thriller Bark, you don't need to develop Brook as a new character, because Jinbei has been around for fucking ever, man. Like, you could have just added Carrot, who also has been around for a long time, and you would more or less know what everything is working as, and you don't really have to try to develop the crew dynamics all that much, because they're already there, right? So, I don't know. I think I understand it, but I also don't think that it really needed to be that way, because Oda is good enough of a writer to balance all that stuff out well if he's given the time to, and it could have worked. Also, at this point in where One Piece is headed, we're not really seeing crew dynamics, so it doesn't matter that Jinbei was the only one that got added, because he's not actually interacting with most of the crew members. So I don't know. I think that's a bad argument, but I understand it if that was the choice being made, right? So I don't know. Fight all over the place with Kaido on the roof of the Unagashima place. Big Mom thrown off. I think she ends up battling with Kid and Law somewhere else. And then Zoro gets beaten to hell. Luffy is healing. Yamato fights Kaido for a little bit. Sanji is carrying Zoro around, which I thought was really good. Sanji then fights Queen. Zoro fights King. We get the reveal of the Lunarians, which, on one hand, yes, it's really badass. On the other hand, I guess it's important. I don't know. I mean, like, based on what I know currently, it's good and it's important and it's meaningful. And also kind of explains a lot about Sanji, but also, I don't know, man. If there wasn't so many characters trying to be developed in the story, I would have cared a little bit more. But while I was reading it, I was definitely very hyped about it. It's just in retrospect, I don't think it was really all that meaningful, if that makes sense. I don't know. What else was there? Robin versus Black Maria was a really great fight. I actually really liked this. I also really liked the moment where Sanji asks Robin for help. I thought that was really great. I liked that a lot. I really enjoyed this because Robin is... it means so much to Robin to be, appreciated like that. And it also means a lot for Sanji's character. So I really like it all over the place. Like, that was probably my favorite moment. It was great to see Robin fighting because, let's be real, Robin is probably the most dangerous Straw Hat, like, off the cuff. Like, yes, technically speaking, once you get Luffy invested in something, he's going to be very dangerous. But Robin can literally, like, sneak kill everyone all the time with no issues. And it's kind of badass. And I'm really happy to finally see her, being epic again. Also, I'm not sure if she had armament hockey on her Demonio floor or whatever. But if she did, that's really awesome as well. I really like that a lot. So, Kanjuro's fire stuff thing that he was doing to try to do some last minute damage was good, I guess. I don't know. There's just a lot of stuff. The Sun God Nika reveal was awesome. I love that. I thought it was awesome. I mean, I was already spoiled for it, but I thought it was still cool as fuck. The way it happens is really awesome. The Looney Tune-esque, like, action scenes is awesome. It reminds me of Tom and Jerry, and I love that. I think that's really, really fun. It also reminds me of, like, Bugs Bunny and those kind of characters. So it's really good stuff. I really like it. And the battle ends well. I think that everything after the battle is the stuff that I don't like, because I feel like there's a lot of extra leftover things, and usually we do have a great post-war arc, right? We had one for post-Ennis Lobby. We had one for post-Summit War, and it not being here was kind of a letdown. I really think that there's a lot of things that had to happen that just didn't get to happen. And I don't know if that's because Oda didn't get to keep working on the structure thing that he had, because I think this is based on Rakugo, and Rakugo has 5 stages, and Oda only got to go to stage 3 and then had to end it. So I don't know if that's a problem. I don't know if that's part of the issue, but 10 chapters of winding down and then getting around to the ending of Wano before they sail off to the next island would have been meaningful. I think we only got 3 chapters instead. So that's kind of a loss. It's pretty bad. I mean, the fight with Kaido itself was fine. The fact that Kaido wasn't really a meaningful villain the same way Crocodile was, or the same way that Doflamingo was, or the same way that, the admirals were in the Summit War is bad. I don't like that. The fact that Zoro doesn't get his, arc the same way Sanji got in the previous arc before this is bad. The fact that Usopp doesn't do anything for, most of this part of the story kind of sucks. The fact that Nami doesn't actually get a good fight also sucks. The fact that Big Mom was kind of just there kind of sucks. I feel like she should have gotten beat at Whole Cake, and that this should have only been about Kaido. The fact that the Tobiropo are kind of useless underlings, even though they're supposed to be really powerful characters, kind of sucks. Although Who's Who is a pretty cool character. I like his design a lot. The fact that there was just random CP9 or CP0 characters there makes no sense. What the fuck were they doing there? The ending with Kurosuchi Should Burn, or whatever it's called, was pretty good. I liked it. I mean, a lot of people had issues with this because it meant the whole family should burn. And I think that there's theories that Tama is part of this family, and so that's bad. But also, who cares? We understand that she meant Orochi should die. It doesn't matter if there's the larger connotation doesn't really matter all that much, because that's not what she's referring to. Because I'm pretty sure that it's pretty well understood that Orochi and Kanjuro are the only members of this family at this time. And Kanjuro's a bad guy, and so is Orochi. So yeah, they should all burn. I don't know. I didn't find it to be that bad of a thing. What else? Yamato's excuse for not leaving was kind of bad. Green Bull's introduction and then immediate loss to Shanks from very far away was unnecessary. What the hell was he doing there? Why was Shanks there? And why does Shanks not want to meet Luffy? It felt like advertising for the movie, but also it can kind of work. That means that Shanks is in the area, so eventually Shanks and Luffy can meet, and it makes sense that they would meet. If Shanks is coming from behind and Luffy's in front, it makes sense, but he didn't have to show up to Wano. Yamato's initial reason for not leaving is bad. Her realistic reason makes sense, but also you should have thought about that before. You can't have that be the reason while also having everything about Yamato's character be, I want to sail with the Straw Hats. Even though it makes sense, it's still bad. And it doesn't work for me all that much. So I don't really like it. There's other things that were bad that I really, at this point, can't remember anymore. But, I don't know. It was a pretty middling, thing. At the end of the day, this is still a 4 out of 5. I still liked it a lot. And I really enjoyed the moments that I really loved. But that doesn't mean it's not, it's worse than before. And Wano as a whole is not really the best. I like Whole Cake a bit more than Wano. I like Zoe a lot more than Wano in general. I don't know. It kind of sucks. Because it was this awesome build-up to this moment. And then it just doesn't work that well. It doesn't end in amazing fanfare like always. And it kind of sucks. I don't know. It is what it is, I guess. In terms of characters, we have Kaido, Big Mom, Kid, Law, Yamato. Again, Yamato, I don't really like this character. I like the fan art of this character, and I like the design of the character. I like their devil fruit, but them as a person, I find very little value in them. The team dynamics are really great. Robin and Brook are awesome. Robin and Jinbei are great. Zoro and Sanji have very awesome moments. I love Momo's development as an individual. The fact that he decides to grow up, even though he probably should have enjoyed his youth, because he knows that he has to be strong enough to protect his people, and growing up exponentially fast might help him do that physically. The fact that Momo gets to use his dragon powers, and the fact that it was a failure, but I don't see what the failure is. Is it the fact that it can't awaken, or the fact that it's pink instead of blue? What exactly is the failure of Momo's fruit? I don't get it, but I think it's good. What else? Sanji, depending on Robin, was great. There were some good Frankie moments. I actually really enjoyed them. I mean, still, generally speaking, Frankie didn't do much. But he at least, did some fun things, and I like that a lot. So, yeah, I don't know. The team dynamics were probably my favorite part. Everything else, all the other characters, I don't really care too much. The Red Scabbards are great. I really like them as like a group, but I feel like there was too many of them, and most of them didn't end up mattering. Okiku and Izu, right? Izu, I think, dies. And Okiku doesn't really even seem to care. That kind of sucks. I don't know. There's a lot of fumbles, and it's not very many major things, but the fact that there's so many little things kind of bothers me. In terms of world building, it's mostly just about Wano. There really isn't too much going on outside of Wano until the end of the story, and also during all of the interludes. But Wano is supposed to be the most important thing, and again, the fact that Wano is the most important part of the New World, at least so far, and that there's so many fumblings in this part, so many stumbles along the way, is part of the issue. Overall, all of Wano is good, but the moments specifically in Onigashima, or the raid on Onigashima, and the build-up to it, I don't like. There's very beautiful, small sections that are great, but for such a large, meaningful aspect of the story, and the fact that there's so many problems, it sucks. I don't know. Art-wise, it's amazing. It's really, really good. I love it. Fan service-wise, there's a few scenes here and there. Most of them are pretty benign. There really isn't too much of an issue. I do think that Sanji starts peaking once he realizes he can go invisible by himself. I think that's pretty bad, but, Sanji is probably the worst Straw Hat in that sense. Like, his flaw is the most difficult to overcome, like, as a reader, as an enjoyer of the series. And at this point, it is what it is. I don't like it, but I don't really care enough about it to, be upset about it anymore. Rating-wise, like I said, it's a 4 out of 5. There's a lot of characters that I wasn't attached to, or at least I didn't end up being attached to, because the resolution to their character arcs didn't feel meaningful enough. And the fact that there were just so many characters is kind of problematic, because Oda didn't get to handle it well, and it kind of sucks. And that's really all I have to say about Wano. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. It was kind of a lot more negative than I wanted it to be when I set out to make this. But I think it is what it is. I definitely want to read this part of Wano again later. And I think that later I might have a better appreciation for it, because I'll have known what's coming, and I will probably like a lot of things better the next go around. But in general, it was supposed to be this pillar of the One Piece story, and it feels like it wasn't able to measure up, and that's just really all that it is. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys in the next video, and thank you guys very much for watching. So yeah.